Okay, check 1, 2. Is everything good on your end? Yeah, make sure to do that. Yeah, it says you like. Are you watching a version of the stream right now? If you talk, would you hear yourself? Okay then, that's an issue. Let me try here. There you go, there's an option now?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I just redid the setting.
Yep, so we're good.
Alright, so we're good? Alright. Alright, let's go! After a long break, at least for me. Welcome along, everyone. I'm Fan2443, joined alongside AKDJ2006. AK, it's been forever since me and you have been back in the booth, side by side. Well, not side by side. You're not even in the same country as me. Aside from that. But it's great to be back. Thank you for being able to substitute in my absence last week for the race. And from overall everything that I heard, you did a really good job covering the race. And that's, of course, everything that we love to hear. Everything that we love to hear. But now, this week, we are now back at it again, me and you both. We're at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for another presentation presented by Strange Engineering tonight. Strange Engineering back on board for tonight's race. They were the presenter and sponsor for the 600-mile race that we ran earlier in the season at Homestead. And as we know, AK, we call that race all of the above. Everything happened in that race. So let's hope would we hope that we would want to see what we saw there and all of the above, or what do you think overall that we're going to see here tonight at Indianapolis? Obviously a very different oval from Homestead, Miami.
Yeah, obviously we don't want to see as many wrecks as we did last time, but we obviously want to see some sort of excitement. And I mean, this race, at least from the practice, looking at the lap times, we should get that excitement. At least 7 of the cars were all within 1 second of each other in lap times. So I do think we'll see some pack racing, and I think it should be some great racing overall.
Great racing overall in Indianapolis, such a historic venue, the Brickyard as a lot call it. There you see the lineup on your screen for tonight's race. Vanquish on pole for tonight, joined alongside MVP in the front row. Row 2, the 2 owners, kart racer JDMX Culture. Row 3 goes back to Tython and Girl Next Door, making a good qualifying run tonight. Row 4, we move on to Off-Road Hype and FME Sports. Row 5, we move on to Goosey and RZX Ham. Row 6 is Ray's Peasant, I believe that's the name.
Yeah.
Then we have JW Reno, the 500 champ. AUG Edwards, Slayer's Death in the row following in line. Dave the Gamer making a start tonight. Panda also joined alongside with him. And then finally there, moving up to the front of the field, pace car for tonight, Smokey Unic. So all the field is in order, all the field sorted out. And that's our lineup for tonight. AK, as you stated, a lot of drivers within a second of each other, close lap times, should produce close racing, but that could just be at the start. What could we expect here on a longer run from where everything that we were seeing in practice? Indianapolis, obviously a very different track that you need to try to prepare for, to where you might not get as early as a jump as you could, like, as we were at Miami.
Yeah, I mean, this track produces a lot of draft. Drafting is very key to this track with these 2 very long straights. So you don't want to make many enemies, and on these long runs is when those friends for drafting will come into play and help you, because it means you'll use less gas mileage, which is very key for this track, is to keep your gas mileage as low as possible while keeping as much speed as possible. So that drafting will definitely help with that, and that's what drivers are going to be looking for tonight on these long runs.
Long runs, that is how you truly get longevity here at this track. Drivers in the past who have won and dominated here at Indianapolis, actually some drivers who are not even in the field tonight. Dawson, a driver who's been in and out of XRS throughout, he has the most wins in XRS at this track. I believe he has a total of 5 wins. 4 to 5 wins at this track. Dawson, very, very dominant, but he's not here tonight. We have a lot of newcomers, though, in the field tonight, so we could expect a lot out of them. AK, could you highlight some newcomers that we should see?
Yeah, I mean, I've personally raced with some of these guys. Ray's Peasant, who's a little farther in the pack tonight, was a last-second join, but I've raced with him. He's actually pretty decent as a driver, but he'll need to get used to the tune. Cam, we've seen have some good runs tonight. He even started in 11th, as you mentioned before. Girl Next Door was a sort of a surprising one. We haven't seen much of them up front, but they're starting 7th, so maybe this is just their track and their time to win the race, and wouldn't it be a time that is? MVP and Vanquish, obviously 2 guys that have been dominating the series so far. Those guys are the rookies to be looking at for tonight's race.
Those are the rookies, and that's the field. It looks like one car was not here at the start, and so we will go another lap. Typically, it's only a 1-lap pace at the start. Now, as you see, Smokey, the pace car, he did not make that sharper left turn to go down pit road. So we'll be going around again.
We'll go around again. Why don't we go through some of the basic facts about this track, if you don't mind?
Go right ahead.
Obviously 4 corners for this track. It's one of the most light bank tracks that the NASCAR series runs to. Obviously 4 corners, a 2.5 mile long track. It opened on August 14th, 1909. Notable series that have raced here such as GT, F1, Grand Touring, NASCAR, IndyCar, Kart, and Daytona prototypes.
Obviously, I think IndyCar being the most prevalent at this track. IndyCar, every year they held the biggest race in the world, the Indianapolis 500. So just such history and such deep-rooted history here at this track. Even though we're in a game, I'm sure a lot of drivers would just love to say, hey, doesn't matter, I have won at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And I mean, especially with this race being sponsored, what a time it would be to get that one win at this track.
Yeah. It would be such awesome. Partners on board for the night, Strange Engineering. Please go check them out. Their website, strangeengineering.net. We do have a post right there. We do have a post up on our Instagram page, XRS Xbox. Make sure to go check out us over there. And obviously, if you're not subscribed already or follow us here on Twitch. So then you can get full highlights. Instagram gets you full up-to-date news. And then also our YouTube channel, the Extreme Racing Series on YouTube. We upload the full race replays and more to come later on this season for the YouTube channel. A lot of big things that we're expecting there. Smokey Lakes. That sharper left turn to pit road. We're not waiting this time. Vanquish, MVP, lead the front row and the field. Here we go. Green flag is out. We're racing at the Brickyard.
That bottom lane got those first 2 cars had a pretty good start, that being Kart and Vanquish, so they'll hook up fast and they'll take first and second. So far, 3 wide in the back of the pack there for a second. That was about from 10th to, I believe, 12th.
First 4, 5, 6 cars now all lining up single file. You don't want to stay double file for too long, especially down this long straightaway. Higher speeds allow the cars to get a little tight entering here at this section of the track, turn 3 and 4. A couple cars you see sliding the tires. Goosey going up the track. MVP nearly hitting the wall. Coming out the short chute. Tython to the spot. He'd take third away from MVP.
Yeah, like we said, this is going to be some very intense first bit racing. As we see almost 3 wide for second place there between Kart and MVP as well as Tython. Like we said, these cars are a lot better once you go single file, so these double wide racing with second and third will definitely harm them, which is giving Vanquish a big...
Also 6th and 5th! Culture, he got shoved a little wide out there. He was next side by side. He was side by side for 5th, and I believe he was side by side with Goosey. He got a little bit forced out wide. No, sorry, he got side by side with Off-Road. My mistake there. Got side by side with Off-Road. That pushes you out wide, and you do not want to slam the wall, as you will get massive damage.
You're going to see about 2 or 3 packs forming in the field. First pack consists of 1st to 8th in a single file formation. Then 9th is pretty much by themselves, and then 10th on back would be your 3rd pack. So right now, this is sort of what we expected early on, is this sort of single file pack racing, where everyone's just sort of drafting, but sort of keeping bunched up pretty well together.
First top 3 have remained the same. Vanquish, MVP, the front row, they've still remained 1-2. Kart Racer, he's been trying to contest, trying to close. But this isn't a road course, and though we saw just a few short weeks ago Vanquish display pure dominance. Display pure dominance at Monza. Here, this is oval. Drafting comes into play. As AKU stated, a lot of drivers were within a second of each other. So we could have more competitive racing, as now the caution has come out. Looking back at chat here, have a comment going, Daytona 500 seems like a bigger race to me. Everybody has their opinion, but the Indy 500 is the biggest race in the world.
Did you think caution did come out for Reno? He was pretty slow on the front stretch there for a second. I don't know if he was just trying to save fuel or not as he was crossing the line, but
I don't believe you would be saving fuel on lap 6.
You never know. Some of these guys save fuel for as long as they physically can, from the start, even in the pace laps, all the way to the end. So some people just need that little bit. Like we said, so far that all or nothing shit that we've seen almost every week has either made or broken some of these races. So maybe these people are just trying to save up that fuel to make that strategy work once.
And more talking in the chat. 5 million for the Indy 500 and 8.8 million watched the Daytona 500. That is true. A lot of people. NASCAR is the bigger sport, especially in North America, the United States. NASCAR is the bigger sport in motorsports, obviously, between NASCAR and IndyCar. But IndyCar, obviously, they've been running the Indy 500 for a very long time. Now we see some takers, some fakers going down pit road. Culture being one of them. Reno, he does make his way down to pit road.
Our MVP or 2 more, but while we're under this yellow flag, as we always do, let's go through just one of the facts, as we will do throughout this race. Every yellow flag, we will do 1 fact for the yellow flag. So let's go through our first one for tonight, and that being that this Indianapolis oval was the 2nd purpose-built banked oval in the world. So the second one to ever be built that was purposely built not only for banking, which it may not have a lot of banking, but there's still at least a little bit of banking, more than what you would see on road courses. But not only that, also the oval.
Wow. That one I actually didn't know.
I got a couple tonight.
I'm sure you have a couple tonight. That will be very fun, very interesting to go and look through.
Well, about what we expected off that restart. A lot of close-up racing, and then going into that single file. Not really short of a packed single file, but I don't know what you would call it, because everyone needs to do that.
Indianapolis over the seasons has for sure provided different courses of racing. We've had it to where the aerodynamic packages and the setup has allowed Indianapolis to create very single car orientated racing, similar to something that you would see at Daytona if everyone started single file instead of side by side. But for here in Indianapolis, you can only make that 3 wide move if you know the car will stick and you're not going 3 wide all the way around the track. Because being all the way stuck in that outside line, you don't want to end up in the wall, because obviously that will give you a lot of damage. So a lot of things that you need to be very technical with here.
especially coming
Smokey.
in 1 and 2. I've had personal.
Smokey leaving the pit road. Vanquish. Tython lead the field back to green.
Seen a lot of movement in the back of the pack for positions there. That 3 wide that we were talking about, 4 wide for a second there. In the back of the pack, 3 wide again.
Back there. MVP getting shuffled up all the way on that high line. Oh, and MVP nearly in the wall, and he does kiss the wall a little bit. He did get into the wall. I don't know if he necessarily have damage from that. You are going at the lower speed at the restart.
Yeah, the MVP's
Tough break for MVP there.
Last week's winner, and the only driver currently in XRS to have 3 wins. So he's not having the start that he won, not the start that he had last week either.
Now, although with him having that MVP, obviously he is the points leader for the series right now. So you want to make sure you're consistent, but at the same time, after Nürburgring last week, D-Dog is second in the standings, and he was at 263. MVP's at 300. So with that point difference, I think MVP can afford here to have a couple mistakes and hiccups here in the beginning, but there's 100 laps tonight. So there's obviously a lot that you can look forward to and a lot that you can try to chase here.
Yeah, speaking of consistent, unfortunately, Mr. Consistency Hawk is not here tonight. And he wasn't here last week, so he lost a lot of points and actually lost the point lead last week to MVP. So Mr. Consistency, unfortunately, isn't here.
Yep, Stadium X Hawk. He's currently sitting 4th in the standings. He's sitting at 251, but obviously he's not here in this race tonight. He is for sure going to drop, but how far will he drop? Culture, who is behind him in the standings, in 5th. He's running tonight. Oracle, I don't believe Oracle is in the field tonight. Then Panda, he is in the field tonight. Off-Road, he is in the field tonight. And Reno, he is in the field tonight. And then behind Reno would be Tython, Edwards, Cam, FM, Vanquish. Every single driver other than Oracle behind Hawk in the points is running this race. So Hawk will for sure drop back. We just don't know how far.
Yeah, basically what that means is that points will definitely be shaken up pretty well after tonight's race. And with that, with the money on the line from the sponsors, it also means that we might see a little more aggressive driving or a little more patient driving, knowing that drivers need to be there at the end.
Indianapolis is just for sure one of those races and one of those tracks that you really need to take it with patience. I have been in the driver's seat. You have been in the driver's seat, AK, many times going around this track, and there have been many times to where I have been close to being there to win this race, but just didn't quite have it at the end. And that's what happens. It all comes down to the end. It will come down with a little bit of timing, a little bit of luck, a little bit of you being able to, one, stay with the lead pack. Because one thing, if you are a mid-pack car, let's say you're Panda and Girl Next Door, you're 4th and 5th right now. Yes, you're running well, but you see that gap in front of you increasing little by little. As now Girl Next Door goes to the inside of Panda and makes the pass off of 2. And you see that gap getting bigger and bigger. What can you do? Shorten that gap. Are you going to be able to do it in your speed? If you can't do it in your speed, do it down pit road. Shorten that gap, get as much as you can, because you do not, if you're in their seats right now, you do not want this race to have a long green flag run at the end of the run, at the end of the race. If that happens, there's no chance of victory for you tonight.
Car slow on the track right now. That's Slayer, the number 66 machine. 1 lap ago, slammed the wall in turns number 1, and his whole right side of the car, right front side, is completely damaged. So he may have to go in this time by, and I do think he will. He was running, I believe, 11th at the time.
Unfortunate outcome is that he will not be able to have a caution be called because per XRS rules, we do have caution intervals, and that's just to prevent caution on top of caution happening over and over again. It's to have our intervals. And the second a caution is called, it's plus 4 laps from the lap that we go green. That is when the interval will come into play, and no cautions will be called during that time frame. Afterwards, a caution doesn't come out, but afterwards, when the interval is over, we can call then a caution for an incident on track. And now it looks like they are slowing down for a caution at the end of the interval. Now here with caution out, Smokey rolling out.
Another car with damage was Og Edwards. He's just coming to pits. He also did have right front damage. And he...
Oh, spinner on the back. Slayer. As the field was coming to a halt, Slayer spun.
He's coming to pits, so maybe just tires getting warmed up, just trying to... We've seen drivers do that before. They'll either slam on the brakes or just hold their handbrake for a little bit. Maybe he just held it a little too long. But I do think also Dave, who's in currently 16th position, I think he also did spin because he was slow along with Edwards. So that two-car spin might have been what brought out the caution between him and Edwards.
Yeah, and coming down back to when the leaders have slowed down for the caution, everyone's trying to get back up. Occasionally, people do take time and the opportunity when they get it to warm up their tires, because you do not want to have your tires cold on a restart. You're going to overheat the tires the second you go green, and that will force you to either have no grip entering turn 1, or that's going to make it to where you have no grip to get going, and will allow a lot of people to go by you, whether it be on the outside or the inside. It looks like Vanquish actually picks the outside lane here for the restart.
Yeah, I mean, especially coming into Indianapolis, that first corner with how low of banking and how sharp of a corner it is, that is where, especially off these restarts, is where if you have cold tires, you're going to not only lose positions, you're going to lose traction, you're going to go up the track, and you're not going to be able to take the line you want. Since we're on our second yellow, let's go through the second back. So, Indianapolis was the first speedway to actually be called speedway. So all your Auto Club speedways, all your Martinsville Speedway, that all originated, and you can all track back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Wow. That's something that I did wonder. Where did the term speedway originate?
Well, now you know. It originates from this track. Like we said, this track does have a lot of history to sort through. We're going through facts of this track. It's really just picking the most interesting or most unknown facts that you could find.
There are a couple few interesting race stats for you there tonight. Current leader, obviously, Vanquish. The best lap being also by Vanquish with a 47.5. And JW Reno, actually, with the top speed hit. He hit that 268 miles an hour. Actually, I don't believe that was correct. I don't know why. 268? That wouldn't be real. Back to green again. Vanquish. And Off-Road leads the field. Off-Road actually tucks in line right away before the line.
I do think he realized...
That is legal to do.
I think what he realizes that that outside line got better momentum than the inside line did in himself. Oh! This was up in 22, so he just went up and blocked that line to make sure that they couldn't get the run on himself and get that rep along with it.
Now, you are allowed to change lanes off of the start. You're just not allowed to... you can't pass. You can't gain a position before you touch the line. And Off-Road, while a very risky move there, Vanquish got a huge jump. Off-Road got enough of a jump. And what he did was legal.
Doing the old IndyCar trick, breaking the draft down the front stretch, going down to the inside, going back up to the outside. We've seen Vanquish and Off-Road just try and do that there. We'll see that a lot throughout the night of drivers trying to sort of break that draft, just weaving all the way down to the inside, then back to the outside, or just staying down to the inside.
It doesn't work as effectively as you think. Especially two different types of racing, two different aero styles. Because obviously you just did the IndyCar trick. We've seen it being used over the years at the Indy 500. We have seen drivers go back and forth, weaving down the front and back stretch in order to break that draft, because IndyCars are very aero reliant.
Yeah,
these stock cars are not doing that. These stock cars, they're a lot heavier than the Indy cars. They're a lot less aero dependent. Excuse me. A lot less aero dependent than those Indy cars, and obviously they're going at a slightly lower speed. So they're not able to catch that draft as easily as they could, and a stock car needs to be more stable than an Indy car.
yeah, I mean, obviously these things are completely based off the mechanical grip rather than the aerodynamics of the actual car. They don't need tons of grip like an Indy car, and they don't need a ton of downforce like an Indy car does to keep the car straight. So it may not work with groups of them, because obviously groups of cars like we see up front, there's aero everywhere, so it doesn't really matter what you do. But when you're sort of one-on-one, it might help a little bit, but it's not going to make a huge difference between car to car.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of things that there's even more things that we can look at more and more, because just such the differences between an Indy car and a stock car. But the control here is that it's the same track. So you can for sure race the track in a similar style, because there really only is one way to race around Indianapolis. I don't know how you can change the way you want to race at a track that is very much a rectangle.
Yeah. The bots are following you, fam. I see.
Oh, I see. Lovely.
Don't worry, I got that last week, so we're all good.
The bots have become smarter.
Well, maybe not so much smarter, because you can't ban them on Instagram, but you can ban them here, so...
That is true.
It's a one and done. Well...
Riding along with culture here. Currently running in the 10th position in his Advent House Toyota. And ahead of him is MVP after trying to recover from getting into the wall earlier.
I mean, MVP's recovered fairly well. He went all the way down to, I believe, second to last place. That would have been, I believe, 17th, or 17th or 16th. So he's recovered fairly well since that last restart. Went to the 9th place, now challenging for not only 8th but 7th with FM and Panda.
Yep, side by side. Panda, he tried to block that line.
Oh!
Not able. In the wall. Girl next door.
I think there was contact up ahead, because it did look like he went basically straight on into the wall. A lot of damage to that car. Or actually, not much damage. Pardon me. Not much damage, but a lot of tire wear to the tires. So, Store got lucky on the hit, but unfortunately losing a lot of positions and a lot of time.
Yep, and here all the way, even drivers trying to avoid. Yeah, very slow. Let's ride along. Let's go with D-Dog. D-Dog once again running the car sponsor for tonight. Well, here he's running Strange Oval, which is a division of Strange Engineering.
Yeah, you can see, like we said earlier, once we get to these sort of longer green flag runs, we'll just see this where you'll have two cars just sort of drafting with each other, taking down the laps, waiting for the fuel cycle to come through, which it should be coming up fairly soon here. And just really, this was what this sort of green flag, longer green flag runs will look like for the most part. You'll see a little bit of pack racing when two groups catch up, but it shouldn't be really too much.
Feels so weird seeing one car permanently stopped on the track lamp.
It does feel.
I know the car on the back stretch is smoky, but there is actually a car now that I pointed that out. Very slow all the way at the back. That's Edwards.
He could very well have a little bit of damage to his car. We'll obviously check that out.
Checking. He does
No
not.
damage.
It's not showing. No damage, but he was very, very slow.
He could have just hit the wall a little bit or gotten a little loose off turns number.
Could have been Forza walled.
Could have been as well. That is another thing that we could see, and that we will see throughout this race. These cars going a little high off turns, either 4 or 2, getting into that wall, and unfortunately they do get stuck to that wall out of the physics engine.
Yeah, Forza wall and really walling in a lot of games. This is something that we see very common in racing games. We see it in racing games, but we don't see it in real life. Shout out to Ross Chastain. Being able to wall fight.
Let's not jump to conclusions, because the Fetus, he did try it again with Fetus, and it didn't go quite according to plan. So it could have been a fluke. We can't say either way.
Either way, he did it. Okay.
Now, of course, that was a stock car compared to a Crown Victoria, but
That is very true. Let's go all the way back to the front here. Vanquish, he's actually pulled out ahead. Now a significant gap is formed, and it's because we have had more of a longer run thus far right now. Now a 3-second gap formed between Vanquish and Off-Road Hype. Off-Road, very good for him, running on second.
Yeah, Off-Road, at least in recent weeks, hasn't really shown up. He's been here and there throughout the race, but usually he's sort of running about that 7th to 6th place. But this week, it seems he's sort of found something, at least with this tune and the track, which has obviously helped him. Almost a spinner off 4 or 2, and there is one into the wall. It's Culture. Sorry, not Culture, just behind them. It's Panda, sorry. I do think Dave
Going back, yes, we found. Yeah, we did find Panda.
A lot of damage to his car.
Oh yeah, look at all right there. A lot of damage. He has. Oh, a lot of damage to the driveline.
With some hard
Which
race.
also, pointing out with also Panda's fuel, a lot of cars we could expect to pit here.
Yeah, a lot of cars we do expect to hit, but that was with some hard racing from both Culture and MVP. I do think MVP just gave him a little tap off too, and that was all it needed to get that a little bit loose, and tried to save it, almost did, but unfortunately did hit the outside wall.
Field is now grouped up back again on the backstretch.
Oh. MVP will now have to pit after an unfortunate incident. FM couldn't get woed down soon enough and did get into the back of MVP. Never mind, that damage has magically fixed. Pit crews are wonders
They're virtual.
now. Just like about everything else it seems now. Well, MVP did have damage, and then he didn't.
Well, we can't go too much off of everything that we're seeing here on stream because Forza Spectator does work very differently compared to other games. It is very interactive, but fortunately what we won't see is the consistency.
Most of the top 10 came through Off-Road, Typhon, Vanquish, and Kart, or most of that group. A lot of cars behind them did come in along with them. But those were most of the top 10.
It's interesting to see Kart Racer go to pit road, but Reno and D-Dog not. Assuming they're so that either they feel like they're already good on fuel, or that they want to go a little bit longer, or just a completely different fuel strat in general. They're all on the same team.
Really, it just comes down to how much fuel you can save. But why don't we go through our third fact? What do you say, fan?
I think sure.
Indianapolis is currently the third oldest permanent automobile racetrack at 119 years old. And that is in the
That's
world.
third?
That is third.
What's number one? The Roman Coliseum? Did they count that as a racetrack?
No clue. Didn't Google that. But
Oh.
I can definitely Google that for the next caution if we get another one.
There's how many laps to go?
Point taken.
We will probably get another yellow. This won't be Monza, to where we had no yellows at all. And by the way, that race being an XRS record, we have never had a race with no caution at all being called. And that was the first race ever. Cars all grouped up, nobody lagging back, nobody all the way behind. And so we'll see. Smokey makes that turn to pit road. He does. And now, different front row. Dita, Culture. Leading the field, back to green at the Brickyard. MVP getting that good jump along with D-Dog. Car spanning out. Reno goes inside for fourth. Trying to get in under.
5 wide for a second there in turns number 1 and 2. That was a very risky move. They were 5 wide for a split second. And 4 wide to push the corner through the middle of the pack.
First 3 cars all under a blanket under each other. Now for fourth place, Reno, Panda. Panda tried to get under Reno in turn 3, not able to get it done. Through 4, Reno hosed his ground. And now MVP sets his sights on D-Dog.
Yeah, this first couple of laps, this caution on this sort of restart has been somewhat chaotic, but a lot of good racing through this first through the restart. I mean, we went from 5 wide to some pack racing, group racing, and challenging for second place and first place. It's been a really good restart.
Now in 5th place after heading to pit road, we have Vanquish. Only the top 4 or 5 cars stayed out, so Vanquish being the first car in, having that advantage of not needing to go as far out. But obviously Vanquish, very fast driver. He pulled out to a 3-second lead earlier. And now looking to regain positions as he's looking for Reno. Not able to get there this time. MVP now trying to hold on the outside of D-Dog. They're side by side for first.
Number 1.
Oh, yeah, they're perpendicular with the wall. Lots and lots of damage. Such unfortunate.
I did see that sort of group of cars, that second pack. They were getting very, very racy. You could see it through really this entire lap. A lot of beating and banging between Off-Road, Rays, and a couple others. It was only about time for that to happen. Unfortunately, the rest was the one that it did happen to.
And while that happened, MVP was able to make the pass on D-Dog. So now MVP, he's to the front, D-Dog second. Culture in third. And now Vanquish. He did end up making that pass for, I believe it was Reno he was fighting for fourth. And then Panda, he's now made his way to fifth.
VP's with the lead. PDC's first dive down.
Yep, Culture in.
No green flag though. Because of that, obviously, caution intervals.
Mm-hmm.
Currently about 2 packs formed, obviously for through third, and the rest of the field is sort of all lumped in together from 4th through 11th.
And now Vanquish taking no time to get all the way back up to that top 2. Vanquish, very, very fast driver. Probably the fastest driver we've ever had. MVP, he did get into that wall a little bit in 4. D-Dog with a huge run. He has a corner panel. Now he's side by side into turn 1.
Yeah, we'll
MVP,
see some.
He was able to get the pass done on the outside last time, but this time Vanquish is there. MVP still side by side with D-Dog. He holds it off of 2. What's Vanquish going to do here? Is he going to push, or is he going to try to dive down for the lead himself? Both of them, door to door, and getting on each other. D-Dog slides up. MVP, 3 wide for the race lead. Vanquish through. He's first. MVP second. Now D-Dog's back to third.
Aggressive driving is what led to that. Those 2 touching door to door throughout the entire backstretch. Obviously, MVP being more of the aggressor than D-Dog, but that's all it took. That little slip up, that very small angle or arc into turns into 3 and 4, sent both those guys wide. Vanquish sitting in third place, just waiting for that. Knew exactly what to do. He dives in on the inside and gets the double pass. A great move by Vanquish.
Great move by Vanquish. And he didn't dive down in the backstretch. He was waiting for those guys to get aggressive. He made the move when they were getting aggressive and they moved up the track in 3. So Vanquish obviously very smart, showing a little bit of patience there. And now Vanquish back at the front. What will this mean for MVP if he's going to have anything for Vanquish?
And I think, if you remember what I said at the beginning of this, is that we'll see either really aggressive driving or really patient driving because of the sponsor and the money on the line. And I think we just seen both sides of that coin there. Obviously, the aggressive driving from MVP towards D-Dog to try and keep his first position over Vanquish, and then the patience from Vanquish to make the move once he realized what they were doing and knowing that they were going to get that very shallow arc coming into turns 3 and 4. And I think what we just
Kart
saw
Racer
there,
Panda side by side making contact a little bit, entering 3. Kart Racer trying to take the point. And it looks like he will. He gets the pass done in turn 3. Now through 4, Kart Racer has that lead. They were starting to get side by side, and then Panda tried to take Kart all the way down to the grass in the backstretch. Obviously, Panda wanting to be very defensive about his position because he knows it's going to take a lot for him to try and get back to Kart if he can.
yeah, but on the flip side of that coin, if these two do meet again, especially during these long green flag runs, maybe this time Kart will be hesitant to work with Panda just to kick down these laps. So the sort of things you have to think about. You want to have friends that are in these top 5 consistently, and we know Kart definitely can be in that top 5 as Panda hits the wall in turns number 3 and 4. No spin from him.
Right along here all the way back to 6th place Typhon. He's currently leading himself and Goosey behind him. Typhon did start as a top 4 driver. As now I have the loading screen.
Well, I do think somebody has, unfortunately, lagged out.
And
Yep,
looks like
Reno.
JW Reno.
Unfortunate, because he was looking pretty fast. He was one of those cars that was about 1 second apart in that practice and the qualifying session. He was one of those cars in that sort of 47 gap. So he did have a shot tonight. Unfortunate for him, for either the lag out or just needing to do something. Obviously, all these racers do have lags themselves.
And obviously that will be an unfortunate blow to Reno. He will be credited with 17th place. It's going to show him as 18th because he hasn't finished the race. But Smokey, he's the pace car, and so he counts as someone in the field. So in reality, Reno will be placed in 17th, which that will be a blow to him because he's trying to catch back up. He had a wonderful start to the season, being able to win the 500 earlier this season. But it's been kind of a downhill spiral from there. In the following weeks, he wasn't able to, I believe he missed one race. He start and parked another race. So he hasn't been able to really get on his game. Here tonight, definitely looked like something was clicking. Definitely looked like that he might be able to get his way. Unfortunately, no. And so that will cause a hiccup in him trying to get up to the top 8 in the standings. And a lot of people are obviously trying to take advantage in the trying to get to the top 8 in the standings, especially if there are 2 drivers who are in the top 8 in points right now who are not racing tonight. So there's a lot of people who are trying to look in by trying to get as much points as they can in tonight's race to get into that top 8.
Yeah, I think after this race, the points will be shaken up a fair bit, especially with that many drivers inside the playoffs not being here tonight, and people outside trying to look in not being here. These point standings will be shaken up a fair bit after tonight's race.
Yep, they will for sure be shaken up a fair bit. We could see a huge jump because Vanquish obviously being very successful at leading the race. And so far, he has shown that he is the fastest car tonight. If Vanquish is able to win tonight, not only will that be just another win to tally on for this season, that will jump him up in the point standings significantly, to where he will gain a lot of ground on especially those 2 drivers who are not racing tonight who are in the top 8, that being Hawk and Oracle.
Yeah, and with Hawk being here, with Hawk not being here 2 weeks in a row, it's definitely not gonna help his points situation with how few cars do make it into the playoffs. He's now gonna have to look in being Mr. Consistency throughout the season still.
And so few cars, even though there is a total of 24 in the lobby, me and AK, obviously me and you take up 2 of those slots. And so it makes it to where the maximum is 22 drivers. There have been 41 different competitors this season in XRS. And with 41 different competitors, only 8 make it in. There is a possibility, though, for a 9th. But that 9th driver needs to hit a lot of requirements in order to be even considered for the position to be a 9th playoff driver. One, you need to have at least 10 regular season starts. You need to have a win. And you need to be within the top 18 threshold. So anywhere from 9th to 18th place. If you are within those thresholds and have those 3 requirements, then you are now eligible for the 9th playoff spot. But that 9th playoff spot is only awarded to the top of all people who are eligible. So currently, the 2 people who are eligible, who are outside the top 8, and look to be on track to hit those requirements are Vanquish and Reno. Reno, he's sitting right now in 9th, so he's close enough to where, and there's plenty of races left in the season to where he could probably make his way in to the top 8 just by racing. But Vanquish, he's all the way back in 14th. I'm sure it's not going to be hard at all for Vanquish to pull a few wins and be able to make that significant jump. So then eventually he can sit and solidify himself in those top 8 drivers.
Yeah, right now most of those wins are coming from those top 8 drivers. So that one requirement to get that win is really going to be hard because most of these top drivers are taking up all those wins. And most of these wins are going towards Vanquish and MVP with a combined total of 25, not 25, 5 between the two of them. As I do think caution is coming.
Yep, cars have slowed up on the backstretch here.
Well, you know what that means. It's back time. So
go right ahead.
We'll sort of do 2 for this one, as your earlier question asked which track was the oldest, and it was again in 1907, and that was Brooklands in England, United Kingdom. So it only could have been a couple of months between these 2 tracks openings for for the oldest permanent automobile racetrack. So it was only a couple months between 3rd and 1st, and that means also 2nd as well. So it wasn't a very big gap, being 1907. We'll go off to our 4th fact of the night, and it's kind of an interesting one. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway has held a Super Bowl kickoff event leading to Super Bowl 46. So this track is not only a part of automotive history, it's also part of football history.
American football, that is.
Of course.
You know, the World Cup, it's going on, it's happening right now, it's the whole date. It's football, it's soccer, okay? Everybody can call it what they want, we just recognize that it's the same sport. I just don't mix American football with what other people call soccer.
Well, as far as I know, soccer does not have a Super Bowl kickoff in it. As far as I know, I'm no professional in soccer, but as far as I know, there's no Super Bowl equivalent. Well, not equivalent, but Super Bowl name in it.
Yeah, they have a bigger name called the World Cup. So World Cup being the most watched sporting event in the world, and the Super Bowl being the most watched sporting event in the United States.
Well, this mixes up a lot of things, because Cart and D-Dog are now on point after pit cycle. Those 2 were, I believe, in 11th and 12th at the time of the caution. So, either a very good pit strategy by these 2 is what we'll have to find out, obviously, later in this race, as we will see a huge variety of pit strategies, probably, again, upwards of 4 or 5, just like Daytona.
And the pit stops, they really come into play, and a lot of people just go off of the flow of the race. When they go off of the flow of the race, what do I mean by that? They're going off of how is the race pace looking like? Is it looking like we will get a caution within the next couple of laps here? Is it looking like, can we hit a certain threshold so that I know when to go in or not? And here, different front row, they take no time. Green flag, Cart with a huge jump.
Yeah, and that was a big jump by Cart. And if I'm mistaken, please correct me, but I do think D-Dog and Cart are on the same team. So if that is the case, that could have been a strategical move to line up, as D-Dog would hold down the inside lane and Cart would get that jump, just to make sure that these 2 are in line and can be drafting partners.
Yeah, they are on the same team. They both are a part of Ship Motorsports. We'll be back. Let's go to MVP, who's getting stuck up on that outside wall again. Felt like he got forced or maybe pinched wide all the way there. He falls all the way back to now 11th. Girl next door in front of him. That's not for position. Girl next door is in 16th, currently 1 lap down. The first car 1 lap down.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like MVP can find something on these restarts. These restarts are really killing MVP's momentum, and it's really just hurting him position-wise.
Culture Vanquish side by side off of 2. A little bit of beating and banging there. Culture could not hold on to the spot, but he does have draft off of Vanquish. And into 3, not able to hold anything there. So Vanquish goes on by after a quick, rough start with those two beating and banging side by side.
I think it's side by side. In the back of the pack, we're seeing a common trend of very hard racing. And right now, too, from about 9th to about 13th is where that usually is, and that's where the store was wrecked. Is in that sort of gap as we see some more beating and banging.
Oh,
MVP hits the wall.
MVP, yeah, MVP got into the wall, and now Tython will try to take advantage.
Leaving and dodging around.
Hang on to it. He hangs on to it for now, and now more dicey racing. MVP tries to get onto the inside, and he will be able to hold on. Other cars just trying to stay out of that outside wall.
I think this will be a common trend throughout the race. Is right off these restarts, Edwards gets into the wall there. Is about 9th to 10th, and all the way back to about 13th and 14th. That's where we'll see most of this dicey racing, because people are just trying to gain every position they can get.
Now, riding along here, we have Vanquish, who currently obviously running second.
1 and 2, girl next door's around off the bumper of Tython, comes back up, and traffic avoids them.
Yep, we do see. Looks like everything is okay.
Don't think there was any contact with anyone else, so they should be fine. They just should have a little bit more tire wear than this.
And now looking, going back to what we were going on here, Vanquish, he's less than a second behind Cart, and he is ahead of D-Dog. So there's this gap forming. Slayer, he spun, hit the wall or something in turn 1, and Vanquish nearly hit him head on.
That would have been very bad.
A very close near miss there.
That would have been fairly bad, because that could have set off a chain reaction off the... Vanquish isn't too far from the pack behind him, so those two would not completely block the track, but on a corner it would definitely be very hard to avoid those two if they would have given contact.
On a corner, very tough to avoid that, and to be frank, Indianapolis, it's not that wide of a track. This is very much a skinnier track. You don't feel like you have as much room as, per se, Daytona, and Daytona is the same size as this track. They're both 2.5 miles in length.
One car into the wall.
We have a car slowed, Dave Gamer, but AUG Edwards. AUG Edwards, Rays, yep.
No damage.
Both of them trying to get away from that.
I do think Rays did get pinched into the wall and clipped the wall and just went around us. I think what I saw, just by looking at it.
And I believe Slayer is now in pit road as well.
Yep. It does seem to be that turn 1 and 2 so far are the driver's kryptonite. That's where all but I think one incident has taken place.
Yeah, and it's simply because you are carrying a lot of speed down that section of the speedway. All the way down to that turn 1 area. Yes, you're carrying just as much speed in 3 and 4, but 3 and 4 feels different than turns 1 and 2. 1 and 2, especially entering turn 1, you have that wall that extends the exit of pit road. And so it changes your perspective on how you should be entering 1 and how much space you actually have before you need to dive down. Turn 3, you can take a little bit sharper, a little bit more in line, and of course turn 2 very, very fast. And so you're trying to really set up turn 1 for turn 2. And the time that you have to do that, it's such a tight and short window that you're not going to be able to react fast enough if a hiccup is made, especially if you're really like side by side with a driver through there.
Yeah, and in seasons past, we've seen turns 1 and 2, even on restarts, be a very difficult corner for drivers. Obviously, off those restarts, we see it time and time again that 3 and even sometimes 4 wide can be very dangerous coming into turns number 1 because of how narrow it is, as the outside wall comes down about a foot or two, and that inside wall is right there, so the track is a little narrower than most of the other segments of this track, and you have to take it not a lot more, but more cautiously than the other corners.
Vanquish has cut the time gap to him and Kart Racer. Just a few short laps ago, that lead for Kart over Vanquish was just under a second. He ended up roughly 0.9 seconds over Vanquish. And now that's going to cut down to 0 as Kart dives down the pit road. Because Vanquish, he was catching Kart, but Kart, as you said before on the prior restart, he did jump all the way ahead because he was all the way in the back. So it looks like he just was not going to have enough fuel for the mix.
And that's what we've been talking about. That pit strategy is going to be very vital tonight. Well, like I said, I predict we'll see 3 or 4 different pit strategies throughout the night, because really it's going to be one of those 4 or 5 pit strategies that will win tonight, and I guarantee you we'll see the sort of all or nothing pit strategy, which I'm going to call Vegas from now on, Las Vegas, because it either makes or breaks your race. Either you have just enough fuel where you have 1 lap, maybe 2 laps left of fuel as caution comes out. For the 4th time tonight, I believe, it will really make or break a couple people's races. I think we'll see at least 2 cars use the Vegas strategy tonight.
And one thing really to take even more important note and taken into account is that for the way that we run this race and the way a lot of drivers feel the sense of this race is they're just trying to feel that flow. They're just trying to see, okay, are we getting a caution every 10, 20 laps? Are we able to do this when in reality we want to do this? A lot of drivers, they can have their pit strategy. They can say, okay, my fuel window, let's say hypothetically, my fuel window is 25 laps, okay? So 25 laps from the end of the race, we have no overtime, we have no extended time, unlike real life NASCAR, so we don't need to account for that. We can make it to where my fuel gauge hits 0 after I cross the line. And so things that slow that down are cautions. Drafting makes a different factor. At Daytona, we oftentimes see tandems who are working with each other flip positions, so then the car in front isn't producing as much drag to their car. So then they allow themselves to really not get ahead, but they allow them not to burn as much fuel, so then they can have just a tiny bit more in the tank at the end of the run. But really, it's cautions that significantly do it. You're at a lower RPM. A lot of drivers tend to actually kick up their gear so they can run at an even lower RPM. You hear a lot of drivers running in gear 4 while they're pacing, because simply you're just burning less fuel that way. You're not running at top speed. And you're just trying to analyze and see all that to see when should I pit, where should I pit, and what position do I see myself in after the matter. Because that's what's going to set up your race for the future. That's going to set up your race for the laps coming.
Well,
but I believe it's that time, if you have a quick one.
Yeah, I was just about to say, well, I think it's time for our next fact of the night. And you said Dawson had won 4 or 5 times here. Well, Jeff Gordon currently holds the most wins at Indy for any series at 5 wins in the Brickyard 400. So that is the most out of any series, any racer in any series. The next being in IndyCar and NASCAR at 4 wins with Kevin Harvick. And I didn't quite see the name of the IndyCar driver.
Well, IndyCar driver, there are 4 drivers who are part of the 4-time club. Yep. Helio Castroneves, AJ Foyt. Yeah, being most recent. AJ Foyt, Al Unser Sr., and Rick Mears, all being the drivers who have won the Indy 500 4 times. Now back going to green, off-road hype, and Goosey. We haven't seen him in the front row tonight.
Like I said, that pit strategy is literally, if we get a late caution, it could be a 4 or 5 or 6 lap shootout right to the finish. And it could bring guys who've been in the back all night just sort of waiting. If they have the right field strategy, they can wait the entire night and gamble on that last second caution to bring a final couple lap shootout to get them up to the front.
Panda going quickly, diving turn 3, not being able to stick it 3 wide. MVP into the wall, Vanquish down on the bottom. Vanquish goes through again after 2 drivers being very aggressive. MVP, though, holding well on the outside. They're side by side off of 4. Panda line with him. Culture now getting into the mix as well. 4 cars under a blanket, and this is only for 3rd place. Vanquish still on that inside, that preferred line, but MVP into the wall again as he tried to hold strong on the outside. Panda trying to take advantage. MVP touching the wall again. Panda, MVP, rough, side by side. Now Culture, gonna split the middle. 3 wide for 4th place into 3.
Panda's now throwing his head into the mix.
Panda is throwing him into the wall. 3, 4, 5 cars all making contact with each other. 2 cars hard into the wall, being Panda and MVP. This is off of turn 3. Typhon nearly avoiding them.
Though I don't think, because it is still caution. Intervals are still active. So
intervals are still active and they're still up.
Unfortunately for all those cars, they won't get that, okay, caution's out, go get repaired, catch back up. They have to go around, go into pits, and the race is still on. They'll have to hope for another caution, as they will most likely go down a lap.
Now, I'll tell you one driver who's very excited that they don't need to go through all of that, and that's Vanquish. He took advantage just like we saw earlier. I believe Panda was also one of the 2 drivers side by side. And Vanquish took advantage of. No, it was I believe D-Dog and MVP actually. So D-Dog and MVP were side by side. So MVP being the driver still involved. And that's why I was thinking that. So, yeah, MVP being the driver still involved, getting side by side with someone, and Vanquish just going on through. After being patient.
Really, 2 things to know from this is that off-road has silently made a fairly big gap in 1st place because of all of that. And again, we see MVP off another restart, just not getting what he was looking for, and this time even worse.
Oh, D-Dog's gone.
Turn off 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Sorry. Didn't quite get to that, who that was. It's Carter. He did hit the inside wall. I don't know if he has damage though. He does have a lot of damage, but he's right next to pit, and his engine is fine. So
yeah, Car Racer, he goes to pit road. And D-Dog, he's actually gone. He's no longer in the race.
Fortunately, another strong competitor out of this race. Vanquish looking to
Very
track down off-road,
unfortunate.
though.
Oh, and D-Dog actually making a small... Oh, he made his first time check. Nothing has changed. Still hate this track. Always have bad luck here. Well, sorry to hear that. Obviously, a lot of things can happen. A lot of things cannot go a certain way more than the other. And AK, do you mind if we actually do a quick crank it up?
Yeah, sure, let's go for it.
And now coming back here after that short, quick, brief crank it up, Vanquish has now slowed down as the caution has come out.
Yeah, and caution has come out for off-road. He got Forza Walled coming into turns number 3 and 4. This gave Vanquish an opportunity to catch up. Vanquish did pass off-road with a little bit of contact, nothing much. In return, off-road gave him some hard racing into the back of the bumper. Vanquish hit the outside wall into turns number 2, in between turns number 2 and 1. Which he rebounded off that wall, hit off-road in the front bumper, off-road spun, hit the inside wall, and now we're on caution.
Alright, so we had that quick little recap there.
But with the yellow, I think we have one final fact about Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Alright.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway currently holds the highest seating capacity in a sports venue in the world with 257,325 available seating capacity. That's any sporting event venue in the world. So that's a lot of things to beat. Obviously, World Cup, F1, the NFL, and basically almost any major sport. So to have that is really a true accomplishment.
And I believe it. I have actually been to this track. I've been to this track twice. One was for an Indy 500. The other time was for the NASCAR road course race that they had just this past year, 2022. The Indy 500, that was a few odd some years ago, I believe. I went to the 97th running of the Indianapolis 500. And one experience that was both times. I went pre-renovation and post-renovation. In Indianapolis, you truly don't recognize and don't feel or sense the scale of just how big this track is until you get here. So totally believable, those metrics of just seating alone over 200,000 because I believe, including all the trailers, the haulers, the campers, you can fit over 300,000, probably closer to 400,000 people here at the venue as a total. So, very, very much, very believable, this scale, just to how big this track actually is.
I'm Canadian, so I don't get that opportunity. Miami track was taken off the schedule in the truck series.
You never know, we can always hope.
We can always hope
can
that
always
they'll
hope.
come back, but I don't know.
Always hope. Hey, I was asking for years for NASCAR to come back to just my area, the state of Illinois, just coming back there, and they finally are next year for the Chicago Street Race, so that should be fun. D-Dog in the chat. Really, D-Dog? You have to say that right as before we go green? Smokey makes his way down the pit road, and the cars are rolling. We're back to green flag racing here at the Brickyard. Vanquish takes spot of first.
Pretty wide through the first bit of the pack. Wrecking.
Car round! Culture, Tyson, AUG, Edwards. Multiple cars involved, multiple collisions happening all at once.
700 cars involved. It is the big one. I don't know how many of those cars have damage, but at least 7 cars
Door slow. AOG Edwards slow. Tython, I know, being one of the ones. Tython has big damage.
I think everyone involved has damage of some sort.
MVP to pit road. Off-road to pit road.
Slayer with damage.
Drive reserve. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like there's going to be 5, maybe 6 cars making their way to pit lane after that incident.
Slayer with damage led another car to that count that will probably turn in the next lap, I would assume. Well, that certainly shook things up. Only about currently 5 cars that are still driving, maybe 6.
Well, we have 6. RZX Cam, he's in 6th right now.
So
Panda, FM, Goosey, Kart Racer, Vanquish. Now, obviously, that it wasn't within the interval. That was off the start. So why was a yellow called? Well, it's because in the XRS rulebook, we do have the caution intervals, but there are a few minor exceptions to the interval. And probably the one that happened here, if more than half of the field is involved in a wreck, then they can call the caution. We saw here only 6 drivers were still up front. They were still racing. So everywhere from 7th on back was affected. Out of 15 cars racing, we need at least 7 to 8 drivers to get involved. That does make it to where, if only 6 survived, to where 7th on back was involved, and now we have the caution. The only other way that we could have, not per se a caution, is a false restart. Pretty much a false restart is drivers, they start wrecking before every driver has either crossed the line. Some tracks, with how short the restart box actually is, it goes all the way to turn 1. In reality, here for this track, it is just all cars need to cross the start-finish line in order for the restart to be deemed legal and safe.
Well, we got I found one last fact, which is kind of interesting. The first ever race event held here actually wasn't really even a race. It was more of a competition. In June 5th, 1909, just about 2 months before the oval was actually completed, there was an event where helium gas balloons were filled, and the farthest one went all the way to Alabama. That's over 382 miles away. It floated for more than a day. So a little neat fact that the first ever event at Indianapolis Motor Speedway actually wasn't a racing event. It was sort of a balloon competition of sorts.
I wonder if that's why for the Indy 500, they release the balloons on the backstretch.
It very well could be.
Yeah, they have. When I was there at the 500, when I was there at the Indy 500, yeah, there was a huge trailer on the backstretch, and it kind of worked like a big tarp that had a bunch of balloons in a trailer that can open from the top, and then all the balloons would be released while they were going through all the pre-race ceremonies and all that. So, yeah, I wonder if that was actually the origin of that tradition, because it is a tradition for Indianapolis. They do it for the 500 because, well, that's an event that is the oldest running event, I believe, at Indianapolis. Oldest running event, to where maybe might have not been the first fact.
No clue. That's a Google search for next caution.
That, or we can talk about the race sponsor for the next caution.
That would work as well.
MEA Online Racing. Fun fact, I'm watching the race. Interesting. Very interesting. Of course, a big thank you to tune in here. Let's ride along. Vanquish Kart Racer back to green.
Carson down in turns 1 and 2. Vanquish takes over Kart. Cam makes a move to the inside of FM, sorry. Of FM. For 5th place, so back at the top 5, 3 wide for secondary in turn number 2.
Top 4 cars, all remaining single file. Everybody going dicing back and forth, trying to find ways around people quickly under this lower speed conditions. But by the time we get to turn 4, the cars feel up to speed, and a lot of drivers following each other into the wall there. Cam, as we see, as we were riding along with, he got into the wall, needs to slow down even more, gets into the wall again off of 4. FM going to give a little bump. A Culture coming with a head of steam, charging from 8th place on the outside. Tython will follow him. 2 fast cars on the outside, 2 cars on the inside lane. Culture, he is holding up so far, tags the wall ever so slightly.
Wreck behind them, FM.
Wreck, yep. FM got turned. Nobody, I believe, touched him. Everybody avoided him.
MVP did get into the back of him, Edwards did get into the back of him, but they did not spin themselves. Edwards may have damage, though. We'll have to check up on that.
Running further along here, 4th place Goosey trying to take advantage off of Panda, who did make a mistake off of turn 3.
No damage to Edwards, but obviously with the contact, he did slow down a little bit. He will lose position for it. Only FM, I believe, will have damage.
Yeah, and FM, he did get tagged off of that start.
FM already in pit lane, so not too much damage to himself, but obviously the pit will cost him a lot of time.
Off-road hype, side by side with Goosey for that 4th place spot. And here, turn 3 looks like off-road. He is going to be able to hold the position barely, as Goosey was nearly on his back bumper all the way.
Find these guys 2 by 2. Girl next door, Cam, MVP, and Culture again. MVP having to come all the way back up through the field for, like, I believe the second or third time off a restart incident. This is the only restart, I think, where he hasn't fallen back immediately after the restart.
Cam! Almost.
Great job by everyone around him to dodge him.
And now that broke up that little pack. Now there's a small gap between Girl Next Door and MVP, who are closer to each other. But then Culture, now there's a huge distance between all those guys, just trying to avoid each other. MVP trying to charge his way back up through the field, as you said. But MVP, he's been tossed around back and forth a lot tonight. Looks like he just hasn't been able to get into a good position from the starts.
Yeah, he's really just been at the wrong place at the wrong time on pretty much every restart tonight, where he's just been forced back or been in a wreck that sent him to the back. This is about the only restart, I believe, besides obviously the actual start of the race, where he wasn't sent almost all the way to the back of the pack, if not the back of the pack.
Off-road, trying to gain ground on Panda. And he does. He makes a clean pass in turn 3. Turn out off-road has made himself his way to the top 3. And Panda, 4th place tonight. He has been running very well. It seems like Panda has been in the top 4 or 5 all night.
And it just seems like this track is so appealing to some of those guys that are really from like 6th to 8th. It just seems that they're appealing to them more here, so they're actually getting a very good showing tonight, most of these cars, and it seems to be a very close race. I would almost say that almost any car in the field could win this race tonight.
And especially really good running of Panda. He's in 4th right now with lap 79 from 111 to go, or now lap 80 out of 111 to be ran tonight. And Panda being in 4th, he started this race in 16th. Which, by the way, let's go through the field a little bit. Let's go through where guys have been, where they're running right now, towards the end section of the race, towards the last quartile, if you will. And currently, let's go all the way to 1st with Vanquish. Vanquish, obviously, he started on pole, and he's still leading the race. He's in 1st. He is by far shown that he's the fastest car tonight. But obviously, with the mix-ups with yellows, regrouping the field together, and how aggressive we've seen drivers, just never quite know what the end result will be. Going through to 2nd currently, that's Kart Racer. He started in 3rd, so still showing top 3 speed, and I believe caution. Yep, caution has now come out. And we can still go through here. Kart Racer, he is showing still top 3 speed. Very much a driver that could steal it away from Vanquish, as Kart trying to look for his 2nd win this season. Off-road started this race in 7th, so he has improved a little bit. As you said and noted a little earlier, drivers who were in around that mid-pack position, seeing a lot of them running very well tonight, and off-road being one of them. Panda, huge improvement, started 16th in this race. Now he has made his way over to 4th. And now rounding out the top 5, MVP. He's been fast, but this shows that he's been trying to work his way through the field. He's been sent to the back a lot of times, really just been bouncing around from incident to incident, and also him in his pit strategy has forced him to go from the back to the front, to the back to the front. So that could affect his race flow going into the end of this race, but he has a big lead, and the person who's 2nd in the standings lagged out of this race, so very much so. Not too much to worry about for MVP in this one race alone. Going through again, Goosey. This one is a real shocker. Goosey, he started 9th. And now he was in the front row just not too long ago. So Goosey taking time to go through. Culture, he started top 4. Very much making his way out well. Tython, he was also a top 5 driver. Edwards, he started back at, I believe it was way at the back. Edwards started 13th. Dave the Gamer, 15th, made his way to 10th. Grill Next Door started higher in 6th, but unable to really make his way around.
Yeah, they were caught in an early incident, and unfortunately since have not been able to rebound after they went a lap down earlier in the race.
And now with this pit cycle and this caution, that brings the cars grouped up together again. It changes the front row again. Kart Racer and Off-Road. Now the front row that we're going to have for this upcoming restart. And like I said, let's talk a little bit about our sponsor. Strange Engineering tonight, 2nd race that they've been on board this season. We do appreciate all of their support that they have brought to XRS. But also, we asked of you, all of our viewers, our fans, everybody, go check out Strange Engineering. Strange Engineering, they have been manufacturing Go Fast parts in the USA for over 60 years in the drag racing and oval track racing markets. They design and manufacture the industry gold standard products, from street cars to NASCAR to professional top fuel dragsters. They pride themselves on providing quality service to their customers and true enthusiasm for the racing industry. If you're looking for racing parts that are trusted by top fuel racers and the Ford, GM, and Mopar OE parts, then Strange Engineering is your source. So don't just race Strange. You can go check out our post about them on our Instagram page. It is pinned to the top of the page, and you can go check out them at strangeengineering.net. Excuse me. You can go check out their website, and also go hit them up at PRI, also in Indianapolis this weekend. They really didn't take that time that much. Kart racer taking the green flag almost immediately, and he can do that.
Yeah, he's allowed to go anywhere from when the pace car goes in all the way to the start-finish line. He could have waited the entire straight all the way to the start-finish line, but he chose to go as the second the pace car went in, which is perfectly legal, as you mentioned.
Yep, perfectly legal.
He definitely did catch the field off by surprise, especially off-road. It looked like a stick at the wheel by the time he got going. He had a full 3, maybe 4 or 5 car lengths on off-road by the time off-road actually got going.
Right along MVP all the way in the 9th position. A lot of cars grouped all the way together here. Looks like really 6th with Vanquish. All the way back to MVP. They were kind of tight and bundled up together. Oh, Culture and Goosey, they both kind of followed each other into the wall there. That's going to allow Vanquish to close. That's going to allow Vanquish to close. Girl Next Door splitting the doors side by side with them. Vanquish through the middle. He now takes the spot back again. Both Girl Next Door and Vanquish doing a phenomenal job going around Goosey and Culture. And now Vanquish takes the spot going all the way to 4th. And now we see a gap between 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. No cars are side by side with each other in the top 4 at least.
Culture just dived down pit road. It looks like he's using this as his final stop, as others used the caution as their final stop. We'll have to see. I think so. At least one of these cars is definitely on the Vegas track. It'll just be a matter of who is on that Vegas track and if it will work for them. So far, nobody has gotten it to work, I don't believe. Actually, no, somebody did get it to work. That was Vanquish who got it to work in one of his wins. But other than that, nobody else has been able to do it, and that was our road course. No ovals have got the Vegas track to work yet.
And the one big thing that you need to consider for an oval is that unless you have a massive gap, kart racer not a pit road, unless you have a massive gap to the car behind you, I'm talking you have nearly a full lap lead over the car behind you, you can't afford to slow down. Because that's what Vanquish did at a road course. He had such a big lead that he was able to go slow and conserve his fuel. He was able to go slower, not run full speed, and he was able to really save a lot of fuel, and that's what ultimately got him the win. Because if we didn't have cautions and he didn't have that big lead, we could have seen a very different outcome of that race. As you probably note and remember, YBC Shinobi, he was in the best position to have the best fuel run. He had the best fuel strategy at the end of that race. But obviously he was nowhere near the front because it didn't go green to the end. We did have that yellow that regrouped the field.
Yeah, and we estimated that at that time, Vanquish had 2 laps left, so either 2 laps more in the race, or, like you said, it goes green all the way through. We didn't get that late race caution. That means Shinobi's in prime position to take over Vanquish once he runs out of fuel in the inevitable event that he did. But that caution really did save, that late race caution saved Vanquish a lot, because it allowed him to save a lot more, obviously, because he's not having to put on any throttle whatsoever. He can practically cruise for the pace lap.
And then when they got back going green again, Vanquish then was able to go. He was able to push 100% in the beginning of that run, so then he could get out to that early lead. And since he had that big lead, that's when he really was truly able to save and get the rest and really get the most out of his fuel tank.
Yeah, but will we see that here is the question. I don't think we'll see that big lead, but will we see that little last percentage fuel, that Vegas track that is labeled it, where you only have 1% fuel left, 2% fuel left, enough for one lap? Will we see that here in the winning car is what we'll have to find out later on in this race.
Off-Road Hype being the leader of the race right now. And looking on in with his fuel, it is not looking like he will have enough fuel to the end of this race. But then moving back, let's go to Vanquish. It is looking like he could for sure have enough fuel for it. But now, let's go back actually. Kart Racer, he pit along with Culture. They pitted, and they have more fuel than Vanquish right now. So, with that, Vanquish, yes, he has way more fuel than Off-Road, so he will eventually get that lead back. But a lot of drivers, they're sitting in the hot seat of when will they go in, when will they run out, and will we get a caution to be able to help these drivers running on the lower end of fuel right now.
A car that's going to have to go in here in the next 2 or 3 laps is Panda in third place. He only has 5% left. He has maybe 2 laps of fuel at best left. He has to most likely...
Oh, he has a lap. No, he has a lap. Indianapolis, you are burning a lot of fuel. You're burning more fuel than you do here at Indy than Daytona. And so, you really don't have that much of a window at all.
Well, we'll see.
I would be shocked if... I'll be shocked if Panda decides to stay out here.
He will.
He will.
3 left.
He's thinking that maybe... Well, especially being in Panda's position right now, I wouldn't be the one leading this pack right now. I would want to be behind someone.
He's at 1%. He's about to sputter. I don't know if he realizes what percentage he's at or not. As a driver,
if he starts sputtering down the backstretch, that's going to immediately check up.
It's sputtering. You can hear it.
Not quite. He still has some left.
Oh,
now there you go. Now he's sputtering.
As a driver, I've done this before where I haven't realized what 2% I'm at until it's almost too late, where I'm at like 2% left. My most recent memory that I can think of is Homestead, where I actually ran out of fuel and had to coast all the way around for 1 lap to get those pits.
And now, actually, a handful of drivers who already made their way to pit road. Because now Girl Next Door is the leader. MVP is now second. RZX Cam in third.
Yeah, and those top 2, Girl Next Door being first, currently has enough laps for a fair few more laps. I don't think they'll quite make it to the end. MVP is the one that could make it to the end. He'll be cutting it close. With 60% roughly, with just under 20 laps to go.
Yep, and a lot of guys running it close, but now, what will this do to the battle for the win? As I noted earlier, and really towards the beginning of this race, those drivers that they were within striking distance of the leaders, but they saw that gap going further and further away. What are we seeing right here? We're seeing a green flag run. What was the one thing that I said drivers do not want to see towards the end of a race at Indianapolis if they want a shot? A green flag run. And so a lot of guys right now are hoping for that late race yellow. The cutoff the cutoff for the yellow. That will happen at lap, I believe, lap 107 for this race.
Currently, just going through everyone's fuel percentages, I would say only Vanquish is confirmed, who's currently running 7th. So, first through 6th, I don't know quite has enough fuel to make it. They'll be cutting it very close if they're going to make it.
Well, Kart Racer, he for sure pitted at a lap time that I believe that he can make it. Because that looked like a scheduled stop. It didn't look like he needed to pit because of damage or anything. That was a scheduled stop. Kart Racer probably had it calculated out that he needed to go in at the time that he did. So Kart Racer, I believe he's good to the end. Vanquish is obviously good to the end. So that really leaves the top 5 right now in question. That leaves the top 5 right now whether they are good or not for fuel.
Yeah, currently the top 5 are all within 60% or lower on fuel. Currently, I do believe MVP out of that top 5 has the highest at 53. I could be mistaken by a couple, but I do believe he does have the highest out of that top 5. So really, most of these guys are cutting it very close, or most have to pit. Currently, a car that does have to pit is Rays in 4th, and obviously first with Girl Next Door. Those two will have to pit at least once more, as well as Slayer will have to pit in the next couple of laps. I believe this lap or next lap are his only 2 options before he runs out.
And now I'm going to turn on the track map here for really the spread of the field. Watch my ticker here as we go through. So obviously first, second, they are next to each other, Girl Next Door and MVP. Now there's a whole short shoot and a little more gap between second to third, RZX Cam. Then 4th and 5th, they're next to each other. While the leaders are halfway down the backstretch, they are now exiting turn 1. So both of them very side by side with each other, and then even more so, a almost full half a speedway gap between 1st to 6th. Car Racer and Vanquish, who are close to each other, and those are the first 2 that we are thinking are okay on fuel to the end of this race. There's a big gap between drivers who need to pit and drivers who are safe. And now caution!
Now this will help those people that were right on the edge.
This will very much help those. This will very much help those drivers. But will it be enough? Because now we're still going to have, I will say, roughly about a little over 10 laps of racing to go when we do go back to green.
You can see MVP is not willing to pit. He is right on the bumper of Girl Next Door. High gear.
He's coasting.
He is not even on the throttle. He's only on it when
he's very much coasting.
He knows he is very close to being green or to losing out, which he's done this strat once before at Daytona, first race of the season, and it did not work out for him there. He lost a lot of positions for it. So this is why we've labeled it the Vegas strat, because it either goes very well for you and you have a very good shot at winning the race, or if you run out, you're going to lose a lot of positions because you're going to have to pit with 1 or 2 laps to go. And at this stage, when we have a late caution like this, most of the field is on the lead lap, if not the entire field is on the lead lap. So you will be at least, you'll lose at least probably 10 spots in this race.
Everybody needs to be aggressive here because now it's really time for elbows out. I don't know whether to be highly anticipating this or whether to actually be anxious for this, because we saw door banging side by side, very close racing earlier with MVP. We saw MVP Culture, they got side by side into it. D-Dog, he got side by side into it. Panda, he got side by side into it. And so a lot of drivers being a lot of drivers who were close to now going into pit road. But we saw drivers being very aggressive, and some of those incidents were all the way back at lap 30. It's now lap 98 out of 111. We're going to go back to green at lap 99 unless race control decides to delay. And we're only going to have a small window if something's going to happen. Because no caution will be called unless we have a big one. No caution will be called. And Ooh, the cutoff, like I said, that's approaching. At lap 107, 108-ish will be the cutoff.
Right now, I'm seeing about 3 different pit strategies. You have the Vegas strat, which is currently MVP only running, I believe. You have sort of kart strategy, Vanquish and all of them. They're running about the safer strat. They're most likely going to make it. In fact, Vanquish is going to make it. And then you have the people that just came in. That's sort of your 3 strategies right now. And honestly, those people that just came in, they have a pretty good shot at winning this. They're banking on another caution coming out, which can come out. There is time for another caution. It's not a very big window.
But it's not a very big window.
But if that second caution comes out, that means people in front of them have most likely wrecked. And that gives them a couple positions and may even line up some of those guys in like first, like Girl Next Door and FM. Those 2 may be able to capitalize on that and may even be able to win. So I would not count this race over until it is over. About anyone in this field could get this win today.
About anybody can get there, but it is still truly a matter of who can capitalize on the moment, a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing, and from what we've seen tonight, a lot of drivers take no time off the start. MVP and RZX Cam.
Oh, Cam did
on the throttle, there we go. Yep, Cam almost. He almost jumped it, but he didn't. MVP takes that lead, but he's the one, as you said, he's on a very tight pit strategy, and he's going to be, if he's going to be the leader, he's going to have the most drag on his car, burning the most fuel right now out of anyone in the pack.
Yeah, there's just under 15 to go. He has 44% left in the tank. If he does make it, he will have probably no more than 1 or 2 laps left of fuel. And with him being the leader, obviously he's going to lose even more fuel.
Let's go all the way. Let's go with Kart Racer, who's going to try and make a move off of 4 on RZX Cam. Kart Racer being a driver that we believe can make it, but he will barely make it when he crosses the line at the end of the race. He has Vanquish, who gave him a little push there. And so Vanquish, a driver that we know will definitely make it, following in line with him. And now MVP, like we said, burning the most fuel. Going back further, off-road hype. These are drivers who are just sitting in the cap seat, waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, those drivers are really hoping on a caution or a wreck in front of them to gain not only those 3 positions, but to be put in a position where off the restart they might be able to make some big moves, some big passes, and play that aggressive game, knowing that they have not only the fuel but the tires to do so, and not really have to worry about it. They can make those aggressive moves and try and get those positions to get up to that front to get that win.
Let's ride along with the roof can here with Vanquish, because we've seen this before. 2 cars ahead of him. Vanquish being in third, being able to capitalize. But MVP Kart, they're not side by side, but they are catching each other. MVP trying to hold off a little bit, and Vanquish, he's just hanging on for the ride right now. Because Kart Racer, he will make that move because he doesn't want to deal with Vanquish behind him.
Yeah, but I mean, if your car, you know that MVP is burning more fuel than you do. You don't quite know how much he has, but if you're counting, you know he hasn't hit it a fair bit. So you're assuming that he has very little and has very close towards the end if he didn't hit on that last caution. So I would almost think I'm going to wait until the final 5 laps to make my move, just to make sure that he burns up enough fuel where he is no longer able to make the end of the race.
Well, and also what needs to be considered here, very close, a little bit aggressive right now. It also needs to be considered. So we have 3 different drivers in the top 3 that are on different strategies to try and get to the end of the race. MVP, we are really not sure if he's going to make it. That caution for sure helped him, but we're going to see if he can make it all the way to the end of the race. Kart Racer, he pitted just on the edge of the window that he needed to make sure to finish the race. But will he have enough fuel to be able to battle closely in these final closing laps here And then Vanquish, he was the last of these drivers to pit, so he has the safest out of all of them. He's the safest out of all of them. Off-Road, who also needed to pit, he's also pretty safe as well. So Off-Road and Vanquish, they're really in the catbird seat, because MVP and Kart, they're trying to control this race the best they can.
Yeah, I would say Vanquish and Off-Road are for sure going to make it. MVP is going to be very close. And
Vanquish inside.
Kurt's around. Option number 4. And even if he had some help from Off-Road, that could be the caution that those guys in the back were looking for. It is.
Yep, they slid and Kart into pit road from that damage.
Yeah,
and now we will have a caution.
I think Kart just got a little loose on the back off number 4, which lost him that little bit of speed, and with second through fourth being so close together, Off-Road obviously can't check up in time, gets into the back of him, and because he's already very loose in the rear end, Kart just goes around. There's nothing that either driver could have done. I do believe that is just an unfortunate racing incident for Kart, but not only does this help the drivers in the back, this also helps MVP now, who is coming scarily close on the Vegas strat. He's now only at 28% left.
That's really cutting it close. That is really cutting it. I don't know how much closer you do want to cut it, because especially here, what now after this we're gonna get going. Not next time. We're gonna, or not this time. Probably the next time around. So after they pass through this time. And that'll make it to where this will be the last caution of the race. This will be the last caution of the race. There's going to be, what, only 6 laps?
Sorry, I'm just doing some math here to see if MVP strat will work or not.
It might work with this second caution coming out. It very much might work.
Just going off quick math, the required fuel, supposedly, of course, will be 30%. He currently has 27%. Now that's going off the green flag, so that's not including getting up to speed and anything else that may happen. So MVP, at least to my map, does not have enough.
But right now, obviously, this is giving him that window of opportunity to barely make it. Vanquish, he's very safe, so he is going to be as aggressive as he can be. But here's the thing. MVP is the driver with control of the start. MVP, he will have control of the start of this next time that they go here. Since he has that control, that is his only opportunity to make sure Vanquish is not directly on top of him.
Right now,
because it's just really a tight situation here.
Right now, I'd say anyone from 8th back has a chance to win this race, as everyone from 8th back, minusing, of course, MVP, has enough fuel to make the end of the race. So I guarantee you, everyone from 2nd all the way to 8th is going to be playing a very aggressive final couple of laps.
It will very much get very aggressive. We will have the map on once more to see that spread, how quickly these drivers are either going to get spread out or stay clustered together. Let's ride along here, actually, with the game camera of MVP. Smokey makes that sharp turn to pit road. MVP gets going. Vanquish needing to defend a little bit against off-road, trying to make a charge. Vanquish blocking all the way down to the bottom.
Off-road is being extremely aggressive off that race start. He knows he needs to gain that spot. He knows MVP has very close, if not enough fuel to make it to the end. So he wants to be that first car in position to capitalize if he does run out.
Even more so aggressive racing here again. MVP trying to hold off. He's dodging back and forth, trying to make sure Vanquish stays behind him.
MVP down
Now
to 23.
Yep, now cars have made their way back single file, and we will see just quick side-by-side battles, but this is the battle that we want to focus on right here. Vanquish, with only a few laps remaining in this race, trying to charge ahead on the points leader, MVP.
Right now, every lap is about 5 or 6% fuel for MVP. He needs that 5. If he has that 5%, he's good by 1. By 1%, he is good. If it's the 6%, he is down by 3. So he needs to make sure he loses no more than 5% for these next 4 laps.
That doesn't help! He's into the wall!
Now he's going to have to race for the
Now he needs to race, and he's getting aggressive, pushing Vanquish up the track.
This is the racing we were looking for.
Vanquish holds on. MVP now in second behind Vanquish, and we have a loading screen, whether that means the driver has lagged out or not.
But now this is good for
MVP still slow again.
This is good for MVP
now
because he's drafting. Oh,
going wall!
On top of one another, collects the pack. 3, 4, 5 cars involved.
More cars spinning down the backstretch now. Everybody scattering off-road and others.
Unfortunately, no caution can come out, I think, because I do believe it is too late for a caution to come out.
We will see what race control. We were on the bordering lap that would allow a caution or not to come out, but it looks like we will remain green. And that was actually Smokey who DNF'd the pace car. He left right as caution intervals were cut off.
Well, now MVP is going to really have to push it to catch Vanquish. In doing so, he will lose more fuel. I do think if MVP is going to make it, it will only be by 1 or 2%. If he doesn't, Tyson will get an easy second place. But I do think MVP will still get a third, because if he does lose the fuel required, I do think we'll be coming into turn number 3 and 4, where he should still get his 3rd or 4th place because of that wreck. So, even if he does run out of fuel, he won't lose a whole lot.
Yeah, not a lot of time will be lost, but at the same time, that's if he runs out in the turn 3 and 4 area. But now 2 laps to go here. Vanquish, after some very aggressive racing made by MVP, them getting up side by side. It's looked like it's for sure going to be another Vanquish win, unless a huge mistake happens.
As long as Vanquish can make 2 more perfect laps, I do believe it's Vanquish's race to win, though Tyson and MVP are getting fairly quickly. It does look like they're catching up little by little. But they'll need to be basically bumper to bumper to be able to catch up to Vanquish at this point. And even at that, I don't know if it'll be enough.
And as Vanquish crosses the line that time, white flag, 1 lap to go. And this XRS presentation brought to you by Strange Engineering. Vanquish has been the most dominant car of the race tonight. He has led the most laps. He qualified on pole. He stayed here up at the front. And the top 3 looking like, as they hold thus far, Vanquish, MVP, and Tyson. While MVP just hanging on by a few fumes. Through 3 and 4. Vanquish off of the final corner. Vanquish off of the final corner. He will inscribe his name as another XRS victor this season, and it comes at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Really good racing there near the end of it. In fact, the second and off of turn number 4, MVP did hit the wall. This opened up almost the door for Tyson to steal a second spot. MVP did have to block it. He did block it successfully. So MVP will keep second with only 2% fuel left remaining.
Well, and on the scoreboard right now, it is showing that Tyson is in second, but MVP's in third. That typically can get mixed around. But we do still know that those very much are the top 3 drivers. MVP, Tyson, and Vanquish. gets back out here. As other drivers, they're trying to finish the race, obviously, since some drivers were laps down. Now everybody has finished the race and everyone is indeed loading out. Let's try to get everyone in here for the winner, and we will obviously let everyone know if someone has either declined or unable to get an interview in. Okay, now we have trying to get people in. We're also trying to get Tython in. He has typically in the past, so we're gonna see you. Completely on him if he wants to decline, but he typically needs to message me that. If we don't get response here in just a little bit of time here. Yeah, we saw it was flipped. Yeah, but we know. MVP second. Yeah, Vanquish, you finished last, right? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that was last.
Last place for Vanquish, right? Yeah. I know we didn't find MVP, right?
I changed my router network. You can't get me now.
Vanquish has actually moved.
Alright, so since we haven't gotten a response from Tython, we will go ahead and proceed without him. AK will take care of the winner, and I will go here to second place, MVP. So MVP,
What's going on?
you were barely making it by the skin of your teeth there at the end for fuel. You obviously did have enough. I believe it showed you had 2% there at the end of the race. So you did barely had enough to hang on. You were tossed around like a ping ball, it looked like, for half of that race. We just saw the interstate battery car just go back and forth, front to back, front to back. So did that affect your rhythm at all, trying to know where you were going to be at the end of the race?
Did you say, Daniel West? I think you went in and out. I can't hear you now, fan.
You good?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So you were back and forth for a lot of that race. We saw you on stream, whether it be the pitch strategy going back and forth, you making your way back to the front of the field. Did that affect you at all, knowing on how you needed to race at the end there, especially with you and Vanquish being so close to each other?
Not exactly, no, but I was just trying to have fun for a majority of it because I knew it was such a long race, and it was also my first race on a wheel, so it was a learning
Oh.
process with the running with the field. So I had to do that. Uh, had some, I'll say, quote unquote, great interactions with Panda, but it was a good race. But like I was saying before I included my audio, I was starting to lose force feedback in my wheel. So turn 3 kept getting scarier and scarier by the moment.
Very much, yeah. One, so even more so, congratulations on you being able to pull off that performance, being one first race on the wheel, and also you having those technical problems with the wheel. Glad I don't think the wheel is broken, from what you're saying. You
No,
didn't break the
it's
wheel
not
first time
broken.
around?
So I just
So,
I hope I didn't break it.
We'll find out tomorrow. But good race ran on you. Now, obviously, you are going to extend your points lead by a lot. So already you're looking like the championship favorite, but many more races to go. Good luck to you, sir, for the following weeks to come.
Thank you.
Now, AK, ask Vanquish questions again.
Well, first of all, congrats on the win tonight, Vanquish. Obviously a big win with the prize money. So we'll say it like this: how does it feel to win the second sponsored race of the season?
It feels good. That last caution saved me. I wouldn't have won the race at all if that caution didn't happen, because everybody else was fuel saving. Not much of a fan of fuel saving, so yeah, it feels good. It's good.
Obviously, now you're the second driver of the season to win 3 races out of the season. How does that feel?
Oh, yeah, it feels really good. That I mean, I don't know what to say. To be honest.
This guy.
Not like this guy doesn't
In
get
my opinion,
introduced
it's good.
almost every week.
No, it feels good to beat up on MVP. It's good.
Oh,
Good
ha ha.
Ran into the wall, gave me the win. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Obviously, there were a couple of moments there where you weren't in that top 5, weren't even in the top 10 due to either, obviously, pit strategy or just an unfortunate wreck you were involved in. How did you keep your head high and continue trucking forward?
I was just praying for a caution, so there was no way I was going to win. I was 20 seconds behind the leader, and everybody else was going to make it. MVP was going to make it for sure. So,
Well,
caution had to happen.
if the caution doesn't come out, I'd like to inform you that MVP finished second with 2% left. So, you weren't the
Yeah.
only one praying for a caution, I don't believe. But obviously, Congratulations on the win tonight. Obviously, the winnings go to you. That would be $50 tonight, so a fairly big pot for tonight's race. So yet again, congratulations on the race win tonight.
Thank you.
Back
Now,
to
of
you,
course,
Fan.
in all in good fun. Yep, of course, all in good fun for tonight. Congratulations to both of you guys. Very successful race tonight. So you can see it as both wins for both of you. Thank you, AK, for joining me in the booth this week. We were finally able. It's been 3 weeks since me and you, like we said at the top of the broadcast, it's been 3 weeks since me and you have been in the booth together. Obviously, at Monza it was just me, and then at Nürburgring it was just you. So hopefully we can continue this, be able to go throughout the rest of the season. And of course, it's always fun to be able to have you in the booth and really give just more in-depth information. And of course, your fun facts every caution. That's something that looking forward to every single time.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a pleasure to be in the booth. I always have so much fun up here watching all the talent we have in XRS race around the track each week with each different track. So it's always a pleasure to be up here.
All right, and that will wrap up this broadcast for this presentation here in Indianapolis. Huge thank you to Strange Engineering for being on board for the second time this season. And of course, we will hopefully look for more in the future. Of course, great luck to Strange this weekend at the PRI Show. They did have a showing here. They did have a booth. I believe their booth number was 4521. So if you're in the Indianapolis area, you're still checking out PRI. Make sure, Strange Engineering, they've been providing excellent performance in the industry for over 60 years now. Join us next week for Race 9 of the XRS season. It will be back here at Indianapolis, but at a different layout. We will be on the Grand Prix circuit. The Indy Grand Prix circuit, obviously, Indianapolis, still such good history, and our Indy doubleheader next week. Not a doubleheader, but a back-to-back race weekend here at Indianapolis. So just stay tuned for next week. Fan 2403, aka DJ 2006. So long.